The Young and the Restless, spoilers, betrayal, despair, and revenge, the turning point of Claire's journey. The atmosphere at the gala was thick with unspoken words, stolen glances, and unresolved emotions. But no one in the room could have anticipated the moment that would leave both the characters and the audience in stunned silence. Kyle, in a move that shocked everyone, reached for Summer's hand and declared that they should give their love another chance. For Claire, who had been silently nursing her hopes, her dreams, and her sacrifices, it was the final blow. Standing just a few feet away, she caught sight of their hands entwining, a symbol of her heartbreak. The realization struck her like a thunderbolt. She wasn't the one being chosen. Her mind reeled as she tried to make sense of the betrayal. Hadn't she given enough, fought enough, proved her worth in every possible way? The moment that was supposed to mark the culmination of her efforts instead shattered the fragile balance she had been clinging to. Claire's breaking point alone in the dimly lit corner of the venue, Claire wrestled with the torrent of emotions overwhelming her. Anger, humiliation, grief, and a deep, gnawing sense of despair. Why? She whispered to herself. Why am I always the one left behind? The room seemed to spin as she questioned everything she had ever done to earn the respect and love she so desperately craved. She had worked tirelessly to prove herself, an effort that had consumed her every waking moment. Yet, in the end, she wasn't enough. To Claire, it wasn't just Kyle and Summer who had betrayed her. It was the world itself. Every sneer, every rejection, every reminder of her struggles came flooding back. The thought clawed at her mind. Why does the world treat me with such disdain? For a fleeting moment, Claire wondered if life was even worth living under these circumstances. She had spent so long trying to conform, trying to earn a place in the sun, but now, that light seemed unattainable, reserved for others, people who hadn't fought half as hard as she had. The shadow of Jordan. As Claire's despair deepened, a familiar voice echoed in her mind, cold, calculating, and seductive. Jordan, her estranged mother, and a woman whose philosophy was built on destruction and domination, had always been a lurking presence in Claire's life. Jordan had taught her that the world was cruel, that weakness was a liability, and that revenge was the only weapon worth wielding. For years, Claire had fought against becoming her mother's protégée, determined to carve her own path, one free of malice and manipulation. But in this moment of vulnerability, Jordan's teachings felt oddly comforting. The world had rejected Claire despite her best efforts. What was the point of kindness when cruelty was rewarded? Why should she continue to play fair when the rules were stacked against her? Jordan had always believed in Claire's potential, not as a kind, loving person, but as a force to be reckoned with. You were born to dominate, Claire, Jordan had once told her. The sooner you stop caring about their opinions, the sooner you'll realize your true strength. The temptation was undeniable. Claire could hear her mother's voice, beckoning her back into the fold. Stop being their victim. Be their nightmare. A dangerous proposition. Jordan was never far from the scene when chaos loomed, and she had been waiting for the moment Claire would break. Watching her daughter's turmoil from the shadows, she approached her at her lowest point. I told you, didn't I? Jordan said, her voice a mix of maternal concern and ruthless pragmatism. They don't deserve you, and they certainly don't deserve to win. Claire, tears streaming down her face, looked at her mother. I just wanted them to see me, to respect me. Jordan placed a hand on her shoulder, her grip firm and almost possessive. Respect? You don't ask for respect, Claire. You take it, and if they refuse, you make them regret it. The idea of revenge simmered in Claire's mind. Summer and Kyle had taken everything from her. Her dignity, her hope, her love. Why should they get away unscathed? Jordan leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. We can make them pay. Together, you've tried it your way, and look where it's gotten you. Now let me show you what it means to fight back. Claire's dilemma. As much as Claire wanted to give in, a small part of her hesitated. She had spent so long trying to rise above Jordan's influence. To give in now would mean undoing all her efforts to be better, to be different. But the anger and pain were too fresh, too raw to ignore. The vision of Summer and Kyle, happy and together, mocked her at every turn. Jordan saw the conflict in Claire's eyes and pressed harder. They've humiliated you. They've stolen what's rightfully yours. Are you going to let them laugh at you, or are you going to make them understand who they're dealing with? Claire's resolve began to harden. If kindness had failed her, perhaps it was time to embrace the darkness. If the world wanted her to be a monster, she would oblige. And she would make sure that Summer and Kyle understood the cost of crossing her. The road ahead. The question now wasn't whether Claire would fight back, it was how far she was willing to go. Jordan had made her position clear. There were no limits, no boundaries, no mercy. Would Claire fully embrace her mother's philosophy and become the force of vengeance Jordan always believed she could be? Or would she find a way to exact her revenge without losing herself completely? As the night wore on, Claire made her decision. Summer and Kyle might think they had won, but they hadn't seen the last of her, and this time she wasn't playing by their rules.